Hey everyone, welcome to the Faith and Fandom podcast. Hector Mirai here and checking in. Today we're going to be doing the Input podcast and talking about the things that I've watched, listened to, all the stuff like that over the last little bit of time. But yeah, so like to do this every couple months just to kind of get a feel or understanding for just what's going on and what's entertaining, and because a lot of this stuff ends up becoming devotional material at some point. So uh yeah, I like to just kind of share with you what I'm getting, what I'm encouraged by, and what that looks like. So yep, just doing a couple final quick things here before I switch gears and actually dive in. So thanks for being patient with me, but I hope you're having a great day. And I want to be able to get on Facebook Live over here so I can see your comments and respond there as well. And perfect. Got that right over there. Fantastic. All right. So now I can see your comments. What up, David DK? Dude, I hope you're doing well, man. I know you're pastoring now, and that's really great, and I'm excited for that fact and grateful for you. But yeah, so going on, we are live on Facebook, and um if you are listening to this on a podcast channel later, thank you for joining with us there as well. And grateful and appreciate you for wherever you plug in and encourage faith and fandom and everything else that goes with it. So, Input podcast, let's dive in. I made all the adjustments, got my notes, I'm good to go. I think I covered my notes with my laptop though. Yeah. Okay, there we go. Oop, totally had to readjust my screen. Okay, cool. All right, so first off, we are going to start off on movies because I think there's less movies that I've watched than other things lately. And for me, off the gates, I think, I think I'm legally required to talk about the most recent Marvel movie, Antman and the Wasp: Quantumania. And some things I'll say straight out the gate. Uh, it was a Marvel movie. Um, and that is what it is for depending on where you're at and how much you enjoy Marvel movies. And it was very much a Marvel movie. I thought Jonathan Majors was fantastic as King the Conqueror. Um, I thought that um it was very much a Star Wars movie. It was very much a space opera. It was very much that kind of scenario. It was fun. I don't think I see that's the thing. At the end of the day, I don't know that Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania accomplished anything other than being a hype reel for Kang the Conqueror for people that didn't watch Loki. And that's one of the things I really feel too about Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania is the fact that Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania is effectively the same thing as Multiverse of Madness for Loki, because you needed to watch and actually dig a little deeper into uh, WandaVision to enjoy Multiverse of Madness, and for you to really get the full weight of Quantumania, I feel like you had to watch Loki. And I feel like there are a lot of people that watched that movie that didn't watch Loki based on some of the conversations I had. And even with that, I feel like there were some people that just even, they knew that, but they also didn't care. So visually it was stunning. It was great. But it's one of those things for me, movies are expensive. Having a moderately large size family puts me in the place where if I'm going to invest in a movie, it's going to have to be amazing to view it more than once. DK says he loved it, and I'm glad, man. I'm glad you loved it. It was a good use of popcorn, which is usually my gauge of if it's fun enough to actually justify the cost to watch it. So yes, it was a good use of popcorn. I don't regret seeing it. I just don't feel like it moved the bar very far. Um, we're far enough out now, past the 2-week window and everything, on spoilers. What I do think is that the Kang we saw in the post-credit scene is the same Kang that was in the movie, and that he ended up being cast back in time, and he's going to be the Kang that Loki was viewing in the post-credit scene. Same one, because there is one that grows up on Earth in a past time frame, and I think that's what we were looking at, a Kang that was cast back in time. And we'll see that, and we'll cover that a little bit later as we get there. But Antman and the Wasp: Quantumania, I had fun with it. It's a good experience. I did enjoy it. Next thing I'll say is this, and this is, remember, like I said, for me, movies are based on how, if I watch a movie more than once, it's based on how enjoyable it was. Like Shazam comes out this week, and I fully expect to watch Shazam more than once in theaters. Knowing me, knowing how I was with the original Shazam, I wouldn't be surprised if I see Shazam in theaters 4 times. That's just me. I love Zachary Levi. So I know going into it, it's going to be a multiple viewing movie, unless it's just hot garbage water. And even then, I'm stubborn. I'll probably still enjoy it. I'm saying the Kang that got, or by the way, I'm answering DK's question on Facebook. He said, you saying the one above all becomes the one whom remains? No, he's not the one who remains. What I'm saying is that the guy we were looking at in the post-credit scenes is the same dude we were looking at throughout the majority of the movie. I want to say he's Nathaniel Richards, and that means he's also going to be a distant relation / relative of Reed Richards, which is probably another way they'll introduce the Fantastic Four, which is one of the most valid critiques I've heard of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, is that it was not a Ant-Man movie, it was a Fantastic Four movie with a different cast. So saying that. So I'm gonna move on from Ant-Man, and yeah, he is Nathan Richards. Yeah. I'm gonna move on to Demon Slayer. And I don't even know what they called this thing. But so what they did with season 1 of Demon Slayer was that season 1 of Demon Slayer was really good. It was a really solid experience. And but they ended up doing a thing where you had to go watch the Train movie in theaters to get the full experience to be able to go watch season 2 of Demon Slayer. So seeing Demon Slayer in theaters is not out of the question for me. I've done it before and it was worth it. But what they did was saying, hey, the next season's going to start and you get to watch the beginning of the next season of Demon Slayer in theaters. So I have a teenage daughter who is a heavily influenced anime young lady, as well as one of her friends from high school, and all of my kids like Demon Slayer. And so we spent an absurd amount of money because whenever they put these anime movies in theaters, they cost a lot. Like full price tickets, you can't get a matinee, you can't get any cheaper. And so we went to this thing thinking we are watching just the premiere of the new series. Now, to be fair, I will take the L on that one because it was my responsibility to read fine print and I didn't. It was my responsibility to actually know the full weight of what I was doing. and I should have looked better, because it was not just the premiere of the next season. It was a full recap of the finale of the previous season, plus a very long episode of the new season. So if you went to go watch this, you watched over an hour of the last season of Demon Slayer, which you could watch on TV for free. Then let's say 45 minutes of the new season, in which 20 of the first 45 minutes of that were simply dialogue exposition that would honestly make for a boring episode. And so the collective response I've heard from most Demon Slayer fans, especially those who paid to go watch it in theaters, was that they felt ripped off. They felt disappointed. And I gotta say, I did not feel like it was the best use of my money as an adult. Uh, was it a fun experience? Yes. Realistically, I had more fun watching the finale of the previous season on the big screen than the new stuff they showed us as well. So it is what it is. I did watch it. I'm telling you I did. And at this point in time, I don't think any of you could still watch it in theaters as it is. And I don't know. Oh, my camera cut out. Hold on. Let me fix my camera. Hold on. Don't you forget about me. There we go. That's you. What happened to you there? All right, we're gonna see if I can get my camera back in place. See if I can get that going. Okay, sorry about that. For those of you who stuck with me, thanks for hanging out. Sorry, I don't know what happened with my camera there. I touched the wrong thing. But yeah, I felt like it was not the best use of my finances or my resources or my money. So, oh well, live and learn. I will definitely check and see what is being shown in theaters when I watch something like this again before I go. So, Demon Slayer was not it. Now I'm going to jump over to two movies that I watched on Netflix in the last little bit. One is oh boy. Okay, hold on. Guillermo del Toro. Yes, Guillermo del Toro. I always get so troubled with the word Guillermo. Because I always feel like I'm double checking myself. But Guillermo del Toro's Pinnochio, which is on Netflix. Which also, if you pay attention to these things, just won an Academy Award for Best Animated Film. So that's a big win in itself. I'll say this was a freaking masterpiece of a movie. When I started it, I didn't think it was going to be as epic and engaging as it was. When I started it, I didn't think it was going to be something that would be impactful, but it's a stop motion movie, much like Coraline or Kubo and the Two Strings, stuff like that. You have Ewan McGregor as our Jiminy Cricket, conscious frog, or not frog, but grasshopper. And Christopher Waltz, if I'm saying his name right, it's the guy from like Django Unchained and Inglorious B Words, is Geppetto. And y'all, this was the best version of Pinocchio I'd ever seen. It was dark, it was deep, and even though this was a stop motion animated film, there are times I caught myself holding my breath. There are times I caught myself like gasp. This is also it covers some darker things about death and life and everything else. But one of the things that I thought was pretty neat is that it also is pretty Jesus inclusive for a major uh streaming services uh animated project. Geppetto, being the town's carpenter and stuff, has a responsibility to fix a Jesus statue cross crucifixion that's in the church. And so they end up having some pretty frequent conversations about Jesus. The first time that people see Pinocchio is in church. And one of the questions they end up, or statements they end up making about Pinocchio, or about Jesus, Pinocchio says, um, everybody loves him. They sing songs about him and they talk about him. Why don't they love me like they love him? And I thought that was a really poignant uh, moment that I think anybody that has an association with Christians uh, has probably felt before. It's like, why don't they love me as a person the same way they love the Messiah they proclaim? And so I thought that was kind of neat, kind of interesting with it. But it goes deep into parenting. It goes deep into love and life and what's worth it. And yeah, surprisingly and weirdly enough, goes into a whole storyline about like pre-Nazi fascism. Like Mussolini's a character, and uh, one of the plot points of the film is that Pinocchio can't die, but he dies, but he just has to wait a little bit longer every time when he comes back. And it was just really good. It was really good storytelling, like from beginning to end. Like I put it on thinking, okay, I'm gonna do some editing. I'm gonna work on something because right now I'm in a place where uh I'm taking the first 101 Faith and Fandom 180s from LTN radio and turning them into a devotional book. So I'm editing a lot. And so I was like, you know what? I'll pop something on in the background and edit. And I didn't get a single bit of work done because I spent the entire time watching this thing and it was that good. Um, so yeah, Pinocchio, Guillermo del Toro, absolutely 100% deserved the best animated feature Academy Award. 100% believe that. I heard a lot of love for Marcel the Snow she was on, and I've not watched that yet. But Pinocchio to me definitely was the best animated thing I'd seen for this recent period. And then the other movie I was going to talk about is Luther, Fallen Son. Luther, Fallen Son. I am a big fan of the TV series Luther from the BBC. It's a gritty cop drama starring Idris Elba, and all that Idris Elba is and who he embodies and the gritty thing. And I think I think it's one of the best cop dramas ever, and definitely one of the best British cop dramas ever. And season, I want to say 5, whatever the last season was of Luther, ends very unceremoniously of Luther being arrested for taking things too far. This movie picks up Luther Fallen Son. You don't really need to know a lot about Luther to watch Luther Fallen Son. But what you do need to know is he's a cop that bends and breaks rules. And even if you don't know why he's in jail at the end of the TV series, they set you up to give you an easy explanation of why he's in jail in the movie. And here's what I think: like they take the show concept of he's in jail for these reasons, and then you've got a bad guy who's wanting to make sure he's in jail, and they have these things overlap at the same time. So yes, he's in jail for what he did in the show, but then this bad guy's also got him in jail for the same things, and they just kind of connected at a perfect storm timing of it. And it is John Luther at his best. But what I'll say is this is the best villain in any cop show I've ever seen. Over the top, dramatic, scary psychopath. Like this dude felt like more like a Batman villain. No spoilers, no spoilers. Um, this dude felt more like a Batman villain or a Bond villain than a British cop villain. But I'll just say this: that Andy Serkis as the bad guy, because I mean this dude has done everything. I mean the last year he had Andor, he had so many good things. He's Alfred and Batman. He's had a pretty big year. Um, but I'll say that Andy Serkis was terrifying, and the level of evil he put out there, because that's the thing, Luther villains have always been a notch above when it comes to how bad they are, how evil they are. And Andy Serkis makes every televised Luther villain, you know, look like they're bad guys on Paw Patrol or something. Like he's about on that level. And because so there is a prequel novel to the Luther series written by the guy who wrote the Luther series. And the novel is worse than anything I'd seen in the show in terms of evil. And this movie by far surpasses what that looks like. So if you've watched Luther, this is a great continuation, and it leaves you open for some future things. If you've not watched Luther, watch the first episode of Luther wherever you can find it, because I think it's amazing. And you don't necessarily have to have a lot of the backstory, because realistically at the end of the Luther TV series everybody's gone. So he doesn't have a lot of backstory stuff that transfers over to this movie outside of his old boss Shank. So yeah, so those are the 4 movies I've watched in the last month worth talking about, and they were good. So there's that. I would say Luther was the best movie experience, and Pinocchio is close behind. But not really ranking, just talking about the fact that they're there. But I will say this: Luther is intense. It is not like watching Law and Order or even SVU. Be aware, it's intense. It's a wigwam and it's a teepee. It's 2 tenths. But yes. Let's jump over to TV stuff. I know that 2 of those movies were TV movies, but serialized television versus that. One thing that I watched, which just finished, so I don't really have spoilers to give anyway, but just watch The Last of Us. All the episodes are out for this season. And I'm an Xbox person and a Nintendo person, so I've not played The Last of Us fully as a game. And so this was all new to me. And it was all really, really well done in terms of storytelling. One of the things that TikTok does is shows me, I get a lot of the comparison of this is what it looked like in the game versus this is what it looked like on TV. And, it looks like they did this and this was a passion project. And I do love all the memes of, Pedro Pascal, how similar the story between Ellie and Baby Yoda is, Grogu. And, the memes are gold for that. But realistically, this was just good, impressive storytelling. I felt like the episode before the finale was stronger than the finale. Mainly, I guess, because of how Ellie was doing things and how she was handling stuff. Like seeing Pedro Pascal be a gangster is less surprising and less enthralling to me than watching Ellie try and survive. But again, it was a good experience. I deeply enjoyed watching it. I look forward to what's next, and at some point I'll probably borrow someone's PlayStation so I can play The Last of Us and God of War and Spider-Man and stuff like that, and Ghost of Tsushima, or Ghost of whatever the samurai game was, because I did want to play that as well. But I really enjoyed The Last of Us. I don't think I gotta really sell that, but one of the things too is like this is much less a zombie cordyceps storyline based on the show, at least, and a lot more of just people are evil and we all suck and it's hard to live. and what is worth your time and what is worth fighting for. As a dad, the storyline hits really hard, because it's a father-daughter story. And I don't know, I just thought it was really good storytelling with that. Uh the other thing the other show I'm just going to mention, and I watched this um because my daughter Rosa loves Aubrey Plaza and Parks and Rec. She, had mentioned White Lotus, and we had seen a sketch about White Lotus on SNL. And so I watched both seasons of White Lotus. And I guess it's not technically a murder mystery, but it kind of is. It's murder mystery vibes with just a lot of like awkward drama. I'll say this: it's beautifully shot. It's interestingly written. Uh, Content wise, it gets real dicey in the first season and gets way dicier in the second season. Um, for me, a positive was seeing the guy who played Christopher from Sopranos having another major dramatic role. I thought that was, I was happy for him. I don't feel like Aubrey Plaza did anything necessarily new in this, but she did a good job. The one thing I'll do say is that the dude who played Aubrey Plaza's husband in White Lotus, to me, I feel like would be a perfect Nightwing. Nothing against the dude on Titans, because I think he has done an admirable job. But I think the dude who played Aubrey Plaza's husband on White Lotus would be a fantastic Nightwing. I think that was one of the big things that sticks around. And I think one of my favorite takeaways from sitting through 2 seasons of White Lotus was hearing my daughter try to awkwardly sing the theme song, which is just like some warbling. But she's got it pretty down pat now, and it's really funny to hear. But yeah, really good acting across the board. It is definitely an HBO awkward drama series. And I get why it won some awards. But there's those things. Let's jump over to reading. I am in the middle of some books right now. I am currently reading KB's book, Dangerous Jesus. If you aren't familiar, KB, Kevin Burgess. I never have to say his last name. He's just always KB. But KB, he's one of my favorite hip hop artists. He has a podcast. He's a pastor. He's writing a book called He's written a book called Dangerous Jesus that is, it is not an encouragement book, but it is a lot more of well, hold on. I'm halfway through the book, so maybe it gets more encouraging towards the end. I don't know. But what I will say is this: it is an entire book of showing by biblical teaching where we're wrong as a church and a culture, and what we're getting wrong about Jesus, which is something I very frequently feel personally. The little book that I wrote called Flocked Up feels like it's the forward to this book. But it is definitely meaty. It is definitely not pulling any punches, which also is funny because KB is a boxer as well. But like legitimately, Dangerous Jesus is one of these that I have to read like a chapter at a time and then walk away from because it gets too heavy and it's too gangster to read a lot of. And one of the things too that I like to do is I bought this book in Kindle format because if you have an Alexa, I don't want to say it too loud because I don't want her to interrupt. But if you have an Echo, Alexa, you can say, read my book, and it'll read it for you. You don't have to have an Audible per se. So if you can deal with the robot voice, which is much better than it used to be, they'll read any book that you actually purchased on Kindle. So in my car, in my headphones, at the gym, whatever, I'm listening to this book in that capacity. And it has been incredibly challenging. I'm also, let's say, halfway through James Patterson's Fear No Evil, which is an Alex Cross novel. And I'm just trying to burn through it because My kids bought me the one that comes after that for Christmas. So I'm trying to catch up and read these. And I read so many comic books for the Pull List podcast and just for my own edification, that sometimes it's hard to read other books when you're writing and editing and doing sermons and all the other stuff. But KB's Dangerous Jesus is definitely worth it. And I went to go see Brad Meltzer speak a little while ago, and he alluded to the fact Todd and my friend Todd Turner commented, these so many books I can't even get through my pulls. I'm with you, Todd. I feel that in my soul. And like, so reading novels and other books is a lot harder. But when I went to go see Brad Meltzer speak, he alluded to the fact that James Patterson said he was really, really tired of writing Alex Cross novels, but he doesn't really have a choice in stopping. And I can honestly feel while I'm reading Fear No Evil, this Alex Cross novel, I get the feeling he's really tired of writing it, which because they're introducing other characters, side plots, and stuff like that. Because this dude has been writing Alex Cross novels since I was in high school or maybe middle school. So he's been writing them a very long time, and that's a long time to keep churning out books. I want to say it's 29 or 30 books just in that series. So it's a lot of books to write, guys. And he's still doing it well, but yeah, you can tell he's not loving life in this capacity. Couple of video games I want to mention that I played in the last little bit. First off is the Metroid Prime remake, remastered for the Nintendo Switch. And I did not realize when I picked this up that it had been 20 years since I played that game. It had been a solid 20-year bubble since I actually played that game in that capacity. And I'm gonna tell you this, it kicked my butt in a lot of ways. It kicked my butt in some ways that I enjoyed because it was challenging, but there were only 2 minutes or 2 moments out of the entire game that felt like I've seen this before. Now, I played that game, I beat that game 20 years ago. Plus I remember it being an achievement. I remember being very proud of it. I remember where I was when I beat it and everything, but literally I only remember 2 things when I played through it. My friend Kyle from the Love Thy Nerd community, said he remembered everything. And I was like, I remember absolutely nothing. And one of the thoughts that continually popped through my brain as I played this game was, I don't remember being smart enough to do this 20 years ago. I guess I've always been at my current level of intelligence. I don't know, but I legitimately don't remember being smart enough to pull this off in my 20s, in my early 20s or 19 or whenever it was. But yeah, I did. It was a completely rewarding experience, worth every dollar. Made me pick up my Nintendo Switch again, other than Just Dance. I loved it. I was really sad when it was over. Somebody had mentioned that they wish they had just dropped the Metroid Prime trilogy instead of just the remake, but I know it takes a lot of time and effort. But also there was an interesting cultural faux pas / social issue, and the fact that when they put the credits for the remake on the game, they didn't list the credit. They didn't give credit by name to the original people who made the game. They just said thanks to the developers of the original and just left it there. And some of the creators and developers of the original Metroid Prime were pretty offended and hurt that somebody literally just traced over their work, made it prettier, and then didn't name them in the credit, or that they didn't reap any benefit from it as well. So it's its own thing. Then the other game I wanted to mention playing is the Destiny 2 expansion, Destiny 2 Lightfall, which sees your Guardian traveling to a place called Pneumonia, something like that. And where you are stopping or trying to stop a malevolent force called the Witness from destroying the Traveler, and you face some of his big henchmen and lackeys and all these things. It has a very Empire Strikes Back vibe to the conclusion, but they also introduce some new abilities and such, which makes it fun for anybody that actually plays Destiny. Because I am in pure disbelief, shock, awe, all the things that we're still getting expansions for Destiny 2. Because we've been getting expansions for Destiny 2 since, oh my gosh, since like 2015, something like that. It's a long time. And there's been a lot of additions, a lot of expansions, a lot of things like that. So I'm just surprised it's still going, and that for each expansion, people are still spending $40 and $50 to make it happen. And you know what? Some of them are worth it. Sometimes I just don't care. This one looked really cool. It was kind of futuristic neon glow vibes, looked like a Joel Schumacher movie. You get some webs and kind of do some Spider-Man-ish stuff. Story was good experience. There's some memes and screenshots on the Faith and Fandom socials and such like that. It was a good experience. When I finished the storyline of it, I didn't feel like I'd wasted my time. It did make me have to actually rely on other people again, which was one of the good things about the first Destiny storylines begin. I made some pretty long lasting friendships just because I couldn't play through the first Destiny well on my own, and I needed help for raids and stuff like that. And I've played and been more active in communities and clans and stuff like that because I've picked Destiny back up. So that's been a fun experience. If you're curious of, is this a Destiny expansion worth your time? If you enjoy Destiny, I think so. And it definitely gives you new environments, new experiences, and you get to do some cool new things with it. So there's that. So we've covered books, covered games, movies, TV. Last thing that's just been in my input lately has been music. Some music I want to cover. First off, Lo-Fi Sunday from Reach Records. If you are a fan of lo-fi music at all, or hip hop beats, something chill to listen to, the folks at Reach Records, Andy Lecrae, et cetera, they have put out 2 albums of Lo-Fi Sunday. One is for work, and one is for Sundays. And they're just an album of chill background hip hop beats for your work day, for your prayer time, for just some quiet. And I've purchased the 2 albums. Also, the artwork is dope on them. One of them literally has a shepherd sitting at a coffee shop on a laptop while a sheep drinks some bubble tea, and that image just makes me smile all the time. So that is a thing. It's really fun. If you want some lo-fi music, it is absolutely worth your time. Also, let's see what else music wise. Pink put out an album called Trustfall. And I know Pink is a bit abrasive for some folks, and she can go really strong in some things. But one of the things that I think has been really interesting lately has been listening to her heart when it comes to losing her father, to believing that there's more to our story than just what's in front of us, that there might be life after death, stuff like that. Her music continually kind of digs a little bit deeper, and I believe Pink has always had a very powerful and strong heart, and it might be in the wrong direction sometimes, in the wrong attitudes, but I think there's some stuff that we can really connect with. And she has a song on her new album called Turbulence, and for me, that was a very powerful song. It just hit me perfectly placed at the right time, to where I was on the interstate, ugly crying, wanting to be a better man, because of a song called Turbulence. So do with that as you will. If you enjoy Pink, her new album Trust Fall is available. You can get it censored or explicit, but those are options. Mike Shinoda, Mike Shinoda, the other half of Linkin Park, put out a song called In My Head for the Scream 6 soundtrack. It's a good Mike Shinoda song. It's a banger. It's got a catchy chorus. If you enjoy Mike Shinoda and his rap genre, it's a good song for you to chew on. Anything is possible from Judah, the namesake of Judah and the Lion. If you're not aware, Judah, outside of Judah and the Lion, does a lot more Christ-focused music, Jesus-focused music as a solo artist than he does in Judah and the Lion. 99% of his solo stuff is worship, and this one is an honest conversation just about the fact that God hasn't given up on him. As a friend of mine shared with me, that he's gone through a divorce. He's gone through over half of his band leaving. He's gone through a lot of life in the last few years. He's had friends commit suicide. And this song kind of reflects the fact that he's been through a lot, but he's still there and God's still good. So it has some interesting elements musically. So if you enjoy that, definitely check that out. Oh, and I'm not sure if I covered this on the last input, and I didn't see it when I looked at my notes, but just to say this, the most recent volume of My Hero Academia, the book, is gold, 100% pure gold, and it deserves everything. And the short version is Deku has gone too far. He's falling apart. He's in isolation. He's being overwhelmed by his own choices in isolation, and his friends literally fight him to redeem him. And it's freaking gorgeous and it's beautiful. I want to say it's number 33 or 32. The next one comes out in May. It's over on my shelf, but I don't want to get up to go get it while I'm recording. So, side transition over to books. Let me put that in my notes of good books. And I'll make sure I actually list what number that was in the notes when the podcast actually goes up. And then Trust Fall. It was the last song I was just going to mention. This will be the end as far as this stuff is. Linkin Park put out a song called Lost. And it was a song that was fully recorded and fully mastered 20 years ago. That has all of Chester's vocals and everything with it. And they did a big premiere around Valentine's Day that weekend, like the February 11th or something, where they premiered it live at midnight. And I sat there and it broke my heart, but it was also beautiful. It's a good Linkin Park song. And hearing Mike Shinoda talk about it on TikTok and stuff, the only reason it didn't get onto this album is because it sounded too much like Numb. So I'm sure if you care about Linkin Park, you've already heard about this. But if you haven't, it's out there. It's called Lost. You can get it for $1.29 or something. If you buy music, you can stream it wherever. There is a music video as well that looks like it's done by a TikTok anime filter, which is kind of cool. But yeah, so that's stuff that I've been watching, listening, reading to, stuff like that. Current projects of what we're working on. I am editing the Faith and Fandom. I'm currently leaning towards Faith and Fandom Bite Size, which is the cover. If I stick with that, is going to look like a cereal box, and it'll have little books floating in the bowl, and it's going to be 101 mini devotionals that cover a wide variety over a 3-year span. I am halfway through writing a devotional on the Banshees of Inisherin, which is another thing I watched, and I don't even know if I covered that on here, but you can read about that. And yes, DK Lost was so good. So I'm writing one on Banshees of Inisherin. I plan to do a devotional on My Hero Academia and the chapter that I mentioned, and I'm also planning to do a devotional on Everything Everywhere All at Once. I just need to get through the stuff that's currently in my head before I get to that. And then yeah, I think about what's currently on the docket. The the Faith and Fandom Bite Size should be out by the summer before we get to like the Father's Day weekend shows like Heroes Con and such. Um and then once I get it kind of edited, it'll probably go online as well. But yeah, so that's kind of what's up. That's what I'm watching and what I'm into. Um there's some other stuff that I was kind of in the process on, but I've got a few more things to read over before I speak on them. Before we bounce out, though, I want to take a moment to thank our Patreon supporters because you're amazing and I appreciate you greatly. And yeah, so real quick, to our Patreon supporters, let's do active, click that button. Awesome. Scott Ward, Alicia Benson, Candace Davis, Jay Sheed, Jillian, Jason Crutchfield, Mike Perna, Todd Turner, John Jacobs, Zach Harris, Caleb Grimm, Jeanette Skaggs, Chris Poirier, Jason Bullock, Christina Ray, Sarah Lewis, Patrick Gale, Rebecca Godlove, and Adam Davis. Thank you all so much for being amazing and how you support Faith and Fandom in all its various ways and help make this possible. And I've got a show coming up this Saturday in Florence, South Carolina at Power Comic Con. The following week, I will be at GalaxyCon Richmond, and I have a church service there. I'm excited about that. And then the following week, I will be at Wilmington Geek Expo. So pretty full next 3 weeks. Lots going on. So yeah, I'll jump back in a couple months once I've actually read and watched a few more things. Got a lot of good stuff coming out. Ted Lasso season 3 is about to drop, or at least start dropping. There's a movie for The Last Kingdom coming to Netflix. Last Kingdom, Seven Kings Must Die. Shazam dropping this week. So maybe it won't be a couple months. Maybe it'll be a lot sooner. But either way, thank you for taking time to watch. If you're watching this on Facebook, if you're watching this on YouTube or wherever else, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Thanks for caring. And I hope you have a great day and God bless you. And thank you for just being the great folks that you are. Bye.